Old school security kicks in after the break-in. Too late. SimpliSafe rewinds the story, stopping crime before it starts. ActiveGuard Outdoor Protection uses AI-powered cameras to detect intruders, alert live monitoring agents, and can deter intruders before they reach your door. It's proactive protection, plus a 60-day money-back guarantee and no contracts. To get 50% off your new system, go to simplisafe.com/podcast. That's simplisafe.com/podcast. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
This episode is brought to you by Paranormal Playback, a new podcast where hosts Shar, Mel and Laura recap the spooky and entertaining world of paranormal reality TV. Each week they take a fresh look at popular shows like Ghost Adventures and Kindred Spirits, blending humour with insight as they pull apart what's happening on screen. The three of them are a mix of believers and skeptics, which makes for really fun conversations, sometimes leaning into mystery, other times asking the questions viewers might be thinking themselves. With their background in creative production, they know how these shows are put together, so they're great at pointing out the moments that feel real versus the ones that might be more for the cameras. And their segment, This Old Haunt, digs into the true crime side of paranormal investigations, separating fact from fiction. With Halloween coming up, it's the perfect time to add something spooky, funny and a little addictive to your playlist. For even more spooky, ghostly, paranormal content with a humorous spin, go check out Paranormal Playback. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Scary. If you're new here, my name is Will and each week I narrate your real life paranormal encounters, and if you have one that you'd like me to narrate in the show, you can send it to scaryaparanormalpodcast at gmail.com and it might just get made into a future episode. As always, before we get into this week's episode, I want to say a special thank you to our new Patreon subscribers who are Tracy Reeves, Lindsay, Angela, Chrissy, Marina Greenaway and Sandy. Thank you so much for signing up to the show's Patreon, and as always, if this is something you're interested in, you can find the link in this episode's show notes where you can gain access to exclusive scary episodes and ad-free main episodes. But now, let's get into our next paranormal encounter. I've had two paranormal experiences in my life so far. In 2023, March I think, is when I moved out of Dublin and moved back to my home place in County Clare. I had decided to go back to my parents' place to save a bit of money and to help out around the house. It was supposed to be temporary for a couple of months. While I was there, I sort of fell into this rhythm of home life again, helping out with odd jobs and running into town, going for walks in the evening. Our home place is in a quiet part of Clare, very rural. There's a long disused railway trail that runs behind our house. It's mostly overgrown but still walkable, and I often take it after dinner. I go down through a small wooded area under this stone bridge and loop around and come back across the field. It's nothing dramatic, just a peaceful walk. One evening that spring, something happened under that bridge that I've never been able to explain. I remember that day very clearly. It had rained earlier in the day and the sky had cleared a little bit in the evening. I threw my jacket on, put my hands in my pockets to take the cold away. I wasn't listening to any music or anything, just walking, thinking about very little. As I came down towards the bridge, I slowed a little bit. The bridge itself is just a single arch, moss covered, cracked in places, ivy growing along the sides. Whenever I stepped underneath the bridge, straight away I felt like that there was this strange pressure in the air, like the weight of the place had changed. On the other side of the arch, in front of me, was a man standing, facing me. The man was slim, he was pretty tall, and what struck me was that he was dressed in clothes that didn't match the season or even the decade. He had on this long brown coat. It was like something that you would expect somebody to wear in the dead of winter. I mean, it was spring, but it wasn't extremely cold. And besides that, it looked like something that was from the 1950s. He had this flat cap on, which was pulled over his face slightly, and this white shirt. What caught me the most was how still he was. He wasn't surprised to see me, nor walking towards me. And he was standing on his own right in front of me on this track that not very many people walk on. I genuinely thought that maybe he wasn't in his right mind, and I opened my mouth to say something like evening, but I never got the words out. In the space of a blink, he wasn't in front of me anymore. He was now standing further away from me and to the left-hand side. Same stance, same stare. This guy hadn't moved. There was no footsteps, there was no rustle of clothing. He was too old to run the distance. It was just impossible. This silent jump from one place to another place. It was something that really messed with my brain. I don't want to say I panicked exactly. I just got overcome with this deep, cold kind of feeling that something weird was happening here, whether I was having some sort of medical episode or I was seeing something paranormal. I literally turned on my heel and walked briskly back home. Didn't run. Don't know why I didn't run. I didn't look back either, and part of me felt that if I looked again, he might be closer, or worse, he'd be nowhere at all. Eventually I got back to the house, and I remember just sitting in the utility room for a while with my coat still on, trying to process it all. I felt wired, like my body hadn't caught up with my brain. I didn't really know what to do with what I had just seen. Eventually I told my family, and they reacted pretty much how you'd expect. My brothers laughed. My sister eventually joined in too, and from that night on they started to call this person Sean, like he was this local ghost that I had invented. Every time I'd walk out the back door after that, one of them would say, "Tell Sean I said hi. Be careful he doesn't follow you home." A couple of days later I tried to talk to my dad properly about the whole thing. My dad's a farmer, he's pretty old school, practical, not one for ghosts or, in his words, that type of nonsense. I think he eventually realised that I had saw something that I couldn't explain. and started to kind of entertain the idea. He started asking more questions. What did he look like? Remind me, what was he wearing? How old was this guy? He ended up saying maybe he was an old farmer. There was the ruins of an old cottage not far away from the spot where I saw this guy. My dad said that a farmer lived in there when he was a kid. This farmer was a bachelor and lived there all his life on his own. And unfortunately, that's as far as I ever got to finding out who this guy was. But it wasn't the only time I had seen a ghost, if you want to call it that. 3 years previously, during the pandemic and all the COVID madness, I was living back in Clare. As everyone knows, it was a really uncertain period of time. The hours in my job had been cut, so I felt like the logical thing was to move back to my home place. At that time, people were shopping online all the time, so there was this real need for delivery drivers. Things were so quiet back then on the roads. You wouldn't see another person for ages. One evening I had just finished up doing my deliveries and needed to get fuel, so I pulled into a small petrol station on the outskirts of town. When I got there, the place was empty. No other cars, nobody. So I pulled up to one of the pumps, and when I got out of the car, I noticed that there was a man sitting on a bench off to the side of the forecourt. He was older, maybe in his 60s, maybe older than that. Pretty neatly dressed. He had a grey jacket on, pressed trousers, black shoes. And he was just sitting there with his two hands resting on his knees. Wasn't doing anything. No newspaper. Nothing to entertain him. It was so weird because it was quite late. Another thing that stood out was at that time everybody was wearing masks, and he was sitting there with nothing on his face. He could have had a mask in his jacket pocket, but for an older person, it was very rare to see them without a mask. I just got some petrol, and I thought maybe he was waiting for somebody, or he'd broken down nearby and was waiting for somebody to help him. It was all very, very odd. I ended up just giving him a quick, "Are you alright?" He didn't glance over. He didn't budge an inch. Finished up getting the petrol and then just decided to go over to him because I thought maybe he had dementia or Alzheimer's or something was going on. Went over, stood in front of him and asked again, "Are you okay?" Didn't move a muscle, just kept on staring in front of him. So I decided to go into the store and say to them, "Listen, there's a guy outside there. I think there's something going on with him. Maybe you need to call somebody." The guy in the shop was concerned and said, "Oh, okay, where is he?" I turned around to point at the bench, and when I looked, he was gone. So I said, "Hold on, he must be after walking away or something, 1 second." And I went out to look. There was nobody in the forecourt. I went out to the road. There was nobody in either direction. There's quite literally nowhere for somebody to hide on this road. you would stand out, and being an elderly man, you would not be able to get away that quickly. I went back into the shop and I think they thought I was crazy or something. I said, listen, there was a guy on the forecourt. I saw him when I pulled up. He was sitting on his own. He looked like he was in his 60s. Described him. They said, oh, didn't see him. In the shop they had a monitor which had the camera feeds on it. And the guy said, oh, where did you see him? I said, oh, he's sitting on the bench over there. And he goes, no, there's definitely nobody there. There's been nobody here for ages. So to save embarrassment, I just said, oh, okay, yeah, and left. When I got back in the van, I decided to drive both sides of the road to see if I could see where this guy was, because I was convinced that he must have dementia or Alzheimer's, and he was wandering the roads on his own in the night time in the middle of a pandemic. So I travelled in both directions on the road. Didn't come across anybody. Eventually ended up driving home. I couldn't stop thinking about this guy. The next morning at breakfast, my mum was reading the local news on her phone, and she said, the poor man, that's sad. This was pretty common. There was always somebody that you knew had passed away in the area, and names were kind of thrown out that I didn't know who they were, but you were kind of told, no, you do, you know them. Eventually she kept on going on and on. No, you know him, you know him, you know him. This happened all the time. I never knew who they were unless they were closely related. Anyway, she ended up saying, oh, I didn't know he had died. Eventually she showed me a photo on her phone, and it was the same man. The same man that I saw at the forecourt the night before. And I started saying, oh my gosh, something must have happened to him last night. I ended up started telling her the whole story about how I saw him at the forecourt and he disappeared, didn't know where he went. And I was saying to her, like, how did he die? What happened with him? So we pulled up this service in Ireland called RIP.ie, which would have your obituary on it. Pulled it up, read the text underneath it, said passed away suddenly, and then we realised that the funeral had actually occurred 2 days before. The guy I saw the night before had died a couple of days previously. I just remember looking at the image and reading the text over and over again, and just had this cold kind of realisation go through me, like my body needed a second to accept it. I don't know why he appeared to me. I don't know why I was the only one that saw him. That's my 2 paranormal experiences. I haven't had any since, but will keep you posted if I do. Thank you to David for sending in his paranormal experiences, and apologies if my voice sounded a bit weird in some parts of this episode. I'm recovering from a bit of a throat thingy that's going on. Maybe it's okay. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you like what you hear, you can press that follow button so you don't miss any future episodes. Also, thanks so much to everybody who has took the time to write a review of the show on Apple Podcasts. It really does mean a lot to me, and I read every single one of them. It kind of blows my mind that people actually listen to this podcast as well. Anyway, that's all for this week. Join me next time for another episode of Scary.
Old school security kicks in after the break-in. Too late. SimpliSafe rewinds the story, stopping crime before it starts. ActiveGuard Outdoor Protection uses AI-powered cameras to detect intruders, alert live monitoring agents, and can deter intruders before they reach your door. It's proactive protection, plus a 60-day money-back guarantee and no contracts. To get 50% off your new system, go to simplisafe.com/podcast. That's simplisafe.com/podcast. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
NetCredit is here to say yes, because you're more than a credit score. Apply in minutes and get a decision as soon as the same day. Loans offered by NetCredit or lending partner banks and serviced by NetCredit. Application subject to review and approval. Learn more at netcredit.com/partners. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
I'm Dr. Sarah Rahal, the founder and CEO of Armra. I developed Armra Colostrum because I know your body was designed to thrive. It's your natural state, your birthright, and you can reclaim it. Colostrum is the first nutrition we receive in life, with every essential nutrient our bodies need. It's nature's original blueprint for health. After a devastating health crisis almost took my life, I made it my mission to harness this power. Using proprietary technology, Armra captures over 400 bioactive nutrients in every scoop, delivering over 1,000 benefits that transform your health at its foundation. Whether for gut health, metabolism, skin, hair, immunity, mood, energy, fitness, or recovery, I invite you to join this collective revival of health and discover radical transformation for yourself. Visit armra.com, that's ARMRA.com, and enter code CULTURE30 for 30% off your first subscription order. This statement has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Did you know 39% of teen drivers admit to texting while driving? Even scarier, those who text are more likely to speed and run red lights. Shockingly, 94% know it's dangerous, but do it anyway. As a parent, you can't always be in the car, but you can stay connected to their safety with Greenlight Infinity's driving reports. Monitor their driving habits, see if they're using their phone, speeding, and more. These reports provide real data for meaningful conversations about safety. Plus, with weekly updates, you can track their progress over time. Help keep your teens safe. Sign up for Greenlight Infinity at greenlight.com/podcast.
I had that dream again. My small business needs IT help, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Get 50% off your first job post at linkedin.com/Pandora offer. Terms and conditions apply.
Streaming is changing the way we watch live sports. And your internet connection can be the difference between catching the game-winning touchdown as it happens or hearing about it from your neighbor's cheers. That's why Comcast is building the network of the future. Using cutting-edge AI and edge computing technology, we're bringing fans closer to the action in stunning high definition with ultra-low latency. It's not just fast, it's game-changing. Learn more at ComcastCorporation.com/sports.
When the flu is keeping you up at night, don't try to tough it out. Knock out your flu symptoms with NyQuil Intense Flu. You got this. It provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms so you can sleep well through the night. NyQuil Intense Flu. The nighttime sniffling, aching, fever, best sleep with a flu medicine. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.